Okay, I'm going to present the solution for the review exam. Number one, the heights of 200 students are recorded in the following table. So here we have a frequency table. On the data side, we have the heights in centimeters divided into intervals of 10 centimeters each. And on the right, we have the frequency, the number of students that fall into each interval. When you put this in your calculator, remember you can't put an entire interval in your calculator. So what you do is you put a representative number, and the representative number is going to be the midpoint of each of these intervals. These intervals are pretty easy to figure out because they're in tens. So basically it's 145, 155, 165, 175, 185, 195, and 205. Now if you have intervals that are not so easily figured out, you can just take the average of them. So you add the left side to the right boundary, and then you divide by 2. Okay, so the way you put it in your calculator is with stat edit. And in L1, I've put the midpoint of each interval, and on L2, I have put each of the frequencies. The first question is from the last unit. They ask for the modal group. So the modal group is basically the mode, but since it's an interval, they call it the modal group. So we just look for the highest frequency, and that's going to be corresponding to the modal group. So 74 is the highest frequency, so the modal group that corresponds to that is 170 to 180. So we just write the name of the modal group here. 170 is less than or equal to h is less than 180. Then it asks to calculate an estimate of the mean and standard deviation of the heights. The reason why it says estimate of the mean and standard deviation instead of calculating the mean and standard deviation is because we're calculating the mean and standard deviation based on the representative number, the midpoint of each interval. So it's not real data. We don't know exactly what the heights were for these 28 people in this category. So what we do is we assume that all of these people had a height of 155, and then we calculate the mean and standard deviation. So you're not going to get the real mean, you're going to get an estimate of the mean. Since we already have it in the stat list, we can just do stat calc, 1 var stats, and then we specify that the data is in L1 and the frequencies are in L2, second L2, and then we calculate. And that'll give us the x bar, which is the mean, 171.15. So this would be 171.15. The standard deviation would be 11.1, right? 11.1. Okay, and then the next section, we're going to use the cumulative frequency graph. And the cumulative frequency graph is already drawn for us here. And they're going to ask us for what they usually ask for: median height, Q3, Q1, or the interquartile range. So first, it asks us for the median height. And the way we're going to find the median height is we're going to find the middle student. So if there's 200 students total, the middle student would be the 100th or the 101st student. If you use the formula n plus 1 divided by 2, then it would be the 101st student, but it's about the same. So you take the 100th student and then you draw a horizontal line until you hit the graph curve, and then you go down, and then you hit about 171. So the median height would be about 171. The upper quartile is 177.3, so they've already told us what the upper quartile is. Calculate the IQR, the interquartile range. Remember, the IQR is equal to the Q3 minus the Q1, and they just gave us the Q3, it's 177.3. So what we need to know is the Q1, which is 164. The way we find it's 164 is we draw a horizontal line from the 50th student, and the 50th student we get from taking 200 and multiplying it by 25%, or we take 200 plus 1, n plus 1, 201 multiplied by 25%, so we'll get either 50 or a little bit above 50. We draw this red line to the right until we hit the curve, and then we go down, and it looks like we get about 164. and we take the difference. The difference is 13.3. So that would be the IQR for these students, these 200 students. And then finally it says, find the percentage of students with heights less than 165. So to do this, what we do is we figure out which student has exactly 165 centimeters. So we do that by finding 165 centimeters on the x-axis. We draw this purple line up, and then when we hit the curve, we go to the left. And we hit the y-axis at about 52. So the 52nd tallest student is 165 centimeters tall. So we write that down. And then it asks the percentage of students with heights less than 165 centimeters. So which students have a height of less than 165 centimeters? Would it be the people down here below 52, or would it be the people over here above 52? Well, the people above 52 correspond to heights that are higher than 165. So actually, it would be the first student up to the 52nd student. So 52 students about. So 52 students are shorter than 165, and that would be out of a total of 200 students. That would give us 26% as far as the percentage of students with height less than 165. Moving on to number 2. Now we're going to have some box and whiskers plots here too. So the exam results for 100 boys are displayed in the following diagram. We have a box and whiskers plot showing how the exam results of the boys are distributed. The middle line, of course, is the median, corresponds to 60. This line to the left of the middle line in the box corresponds to the Q1, which is 50. And the right side of the box corresponds to 73, which is the Q3. And of course, the vertical line to the left is the minimum, which corresponds to 6. And the vertical line on the right corresponds to the maximum, which looks to be 95. Now it's just going to ask us about these numbers. Number 1, find the range of the results. Remember, range is the max minus the min. So that would be 95 minus 6, which is 89. Find the IQR. The IQR is the right side of the box minus the left side of the box. So that would be 73 minus 50. It's about 23. Write down the median. The median is the middle line, which is 60. Okay, so that is the description of the boys' test scores. And these are numbers which show how spread out those test scores are. Now, for the girls' test scores, instead of giving us a box and whiskers, they're giving us a cumulative frequency graph. We can find the same data from the cumulative frequency graph. Again, 100 students, which is a convenient number because when it's 100 students, we don't have to think about which student is the Q1, which student is the Q3. We can just say 25, 50, 75, right? So, first thing it asks, as usual, write down the median. So the median would be the score for the 50th female student. So you start with 50, and then you draw a line to the right until you get to the curve, and then you go down, and we get about 62. So the median, which corresponds to the 50th student, is 62. The IQR would be the 75th student score minus the 25th student score. So the 75th student corresponds to which score? It corresponds to 74. And the 25th student corresponds to what score? It corresponds to 44. So to find the IQR in this case, I do 74 minus 44, and I get 30. Finally, it says, write down the set of results that are the most spread out and give a reason for your answer. Okay, so let's take each distribution and compare them to each other. Remember, we have 2 or 3 different ways of comparing dispersion. We have standard deviation, which they did not allow us to calculate in this distribution because they did not give us a frequency table. There is also range, and range they did ask us to calculate for the boys, but for the girls they did not, and it's not possible to because they didn't tell us the exact minimum and maximum. When you look at a cumulative frequency graph, there's no way to know exactly what the minimum and maximum is. We know that the minimum here is between 0 and 10, but we don't know exactly what it is. We know that the maximum is between 90 and 100, but we don't know exactly what it is. So we cannot figure out the range of the girls. So that leaves the third measure of dispersion, which is IQR. We do know the IQR for both. The IQR for the first one, which is for boys, is 23. And the IQR for the second one, which is for girls, is 30. Which IQR is greater? The girls' IQR is greater, meaning that the middle 50% of their distribution is more spread out. So the girls are more spread out, and that is because the IQR for the girls is 30 compared to 23 for the boys.